In this episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, Kevin Streelman is back, PGA Tour Pro, two-time winner, to talk about his favorite putters over the years. He is a huge collector of putters. He says he has over 250 in his garage, but he's got a few in particular that have been his favorites over the years to use and to play. So he talks about that. And also Justin Smith, head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, is back to talk about the team aspect of college golf. So that was a lot of fun ahead of the Big Ten championships this weekend. That and a lot more in this episode of Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Hey golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. In studio with Sean Bauer, co-host of the show. We had a very eventful weekend on the PGA Tour. You kind of typically there's a little bit of a sort of a, I don't know if it's relaxation is the right word, but a come down, so to speak, after a major like Augusta, especially how crazy it was on Sunday. But we had another crazy finish at the RBC Heritage, and then we've also got a couple of really good interviews as we discussed. Kevin Streelman's back, and also Justin Smith, the head coach of the University of Minnesota men's golf team. So really good stuff in this episode here, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kevin, some of those putters that he pulls out, I mean, yeah, you think a guy who has, like you mentioned, 250 putters in his collection roughly, and some of the putters he pulls out, I mean, some of them are obviously phenomenal, like they look awesome, but then some of them it's just like, they were great putters, but they're 30 years old, and now you can get them for, especially at second, so you can get them for a really good price. So cool little tidbits there. And then, Justin Smith back, and kind of fitting that we're talking about team golf ahead of the Big Ten, men's golf championships, and how they kind of recruit players to fit into this team mold. And that's kind of a big part of their program. So really interesting stuff. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But first, let's get into the turn. And we're starting off with the RBC Heritage and Justin Thomas picking up his first win since the 2022 PGA Championship. He's had some struggles, didn't even qualify for the, President's Cup team last year. I think he missed the Tour Championship. Was it last year or 2 years ago? And for a guy of his caliber, that's, he was really struggling there. And to see he's kind of been knocking on the door this year, finally gets done in the playoff.
Yeah, I think the indication, so to speak, for us here in the Twin Cities is, I think 2 years ago, Justin Thomas played in the 3M Open, which was the year he ended up missing the playoffs by that one shot or whatever it was there. When a name like that plays in the 3M Open and he doesn't typically play in it, it's okay. He's searching. He's looking for FedEx Cup points. And so that was, you're right. He was kind of struggling there for a while. But you knew he had the talent. You knew he had that scoring ability. I mean, we can talk about the course records he has. I know that list is flying around social media. I think it's 7, 8, 9 something PGA Tour course records that he's set. So yeah, cool to see him back. He's been a pretty good ambassador of the game over the years. And now again, he's a winner as a father for the first time.
Yeah, obviously seeing him kind of get emotional about that in his post-round interview, pretty cool, especially you and I both being, new dads, speaking of. Really cool. Obviously, he's kind of, some historical context to where Justin Thomas is as a player. I think, when you talk about Rory McIlroy, you talk about Tiger Woods, even what Scottie Scheffler had done, there's always this, historical aspect, like how great are they? Justin Thomas, maybe you don't think about in that light, but he's just the 7th player to win 16 or more tournaments, including 2 majors before the age of 32.
Yeah, that's a small list.
That's that's incredible. But I said, I don't think if you ask someone, at a golf course, walked up and like, hey, can you name the 7 players who meet this criteria? I don't think many people would think Justin Thomas. And it just shows you, how good he has been and then how big of a struggle it has been because it's been a 3-year gap between wins.
Yeah. I think part of it, too, is he hasn't had the Scheffler or, I guess, 2025 McIlroy stretch of just winning a bunch of big events at one time. It's been over the years, a win or 2 in a given season, but nothing like piling on 3, 4, 5 wins at a time. Yeah. So maybe that's part of it, is there hasn't just been that, dominant stretch. I don't know if he's ever reached, I don't think he's reached number 1 in the world, and I could be wrong about that. But if he was there, it was a very short stint, right? Yeah. So there's, I think that's part of it, but at the same time, the continued success and excellence to be regarded as one of the best players in the world now for almost a decade. Maybe not ever regarded as the best player, but to have this type of talent and continued success, consistency with wins. Really, this drought the last couple of years was the first time he had, gone winless for an extended period of time. And you knew he was knocking on the door. He'd been hitting the ball really well, playing well lately, finishing really well in some events. You kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, and I think you can talk about he tied the course record on Thursday. He was the first to ever win the RBC after holding the first round lead, which I thought was a pretty unique stat. But I think the big takeaway for me is it's a Ryder Cup year, and Justin Thomas has kind of been the last two Ryder Cups, especially the one that was at Whistling Straits. He was one of the catalysts, and he kind of rises to the occasion of the event. Even over in Italy, there he played pretty well.
Yeah.
He just kind of him and Spieth was a little off that whole week when they were paired up together, but played pretty well. Now he's putting himself in position to get to Bethpage this year, and I think that would be a big asset for the U.S. because their team's a little more. You don't really know who's going to make it besides Scheffler. I mean, obviously there's some that you kind of know they're going to be there, but no one is winning tournaments. Where then you look at the European side.
The Europeans are
they've been racking up wins, high
really
finishes.
Yeah,
so.
I mean McIlroy's on a tear. Hovland is kind of bouncing back now. Guys like Sepp Straka are repeatedly in contention now. There's the European team looks a lot better on paper now than it did. At the end of say that Whistling Straits Ryder Cup a few years ago, there was this conversation of when is the United States going to lose again? Yeah. And now that script is I don't want to say flipped completely, but you need a guy like Thomas to play well and be back to Justin Thomas form for the U.S. team to have a real good chance. Yeah,
and obviously the Ryder Cup, I mean, typically the Americans are always the stronger team on paper.
Right.
But this year that role might be reversed just the way the Europeans are playing. But final thing here with Justin Thomas, let's take a look at his what's in the bag. Cool setup. Obviously he's Titleist through and through. He made the switch to GT2 this year. He'd always been a TSR3 type player. Shows you the characteristics of a Fitter's Choice winner for us. That even though it's a kind of a core, more forgiving driver, it still has the low spin, characteristics that those elite ball strikers are looking for. And then his fairway woods probably has to be our favorite part of the bag. He goes TS3 15 degree, and then a 915 FD for a 5-wood, an 11-year-old fairway wood.
So that club, I guess we'd have to verify over the years to be sure, but that club's probably been in the bag for all of his PGA Tour wins, or pretty darn close, right? I mean, all the success we just talked about, that being the 7th player to win 16 tour events and 2 majors before 32, seems like the common denominator is the Titleist 915 FD here.
Yeah, has to. And I know he been messing with the GT280 at Augusta. He took it out for this week, but that 915 FD it doesn't leave, and is. Everyone, I feel like a lot of people always have that one club that's just like, I hit it so well, I don't use it a ton, so there's no need to replace it, and I know I trust it. So obviously, really cool fairway wood there. Then he has a T200 4-iron, T100 5-iron, and then he has his own 621 JT prototype iron, 6-9, SM10 wedges, and then obviously plays Scotty Cameron, the Phantom 5 model that he's played for a long time. So nothing. Obviously, it's kind of been his bag for a while, very similar setup, but that fairway wood is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I think to your point, I think for a lot of players, that club is either fairway wood or hybrid or a putter. It seems like those are kind of the 3 categories where someone might be playing the same club for several years, up to a decade. But also to note as well that his iron set, my understanding is it's basically the 620 MBs, but sort of with kind of some custom specs that fit him, as terms of bounce and grind and things to that nature. But I mean, really cool setup. Obviously, we know he's been a Titleist guy for years now, so cool to see both past and present technologies working for him.
Yeah, and wrapping up the turn here, we mentioned JT had put a GT280 mini driver in his bag for Augusta. Switched it out for Hilton Head there. Obviously, just probably course what kind of shots he needs. But mini drivers have obviously become a hot topic in golf. You've seen Titleist came out there, Callaway, TaylorMade all released new ones. There's other prototypes out there. It's a club that kind of catches people's attention, but I think a lot of people don't really know what it's for. Where would it fit in the bag?
Mm-hmm.
Why? A lot of people asking, well, why wouldn't I just hit a driver? Why would I just hit a 3-wood? And that's something that we're kind of diving in deep this week.
Yeah, I did a filming session with Jake Montgomery this morning, and he made a comment that the mini driver stuff is real. People are interested in it, and people are finding a way to fit it in the bag and have it be a versatile option for them that they use multiple times during the round. So, a lot of golfers, I think I'm one myself, where a lot of golf courses, my 3-wood is applicable once, maybe twice. A lot of drivers, and rarely do I need to hit 3-wood off the deck, right? So that's where mini driver can be so applicable, just in my case, but there's other cases out there. So I think if you're kind of curious about this mini driver thing, or you think it's all a marketing sham, right? Or they're trying to just get you a different way with a different product, just to go try and test it out. Go to the bay, or maybe even, I don't know, at the golf course, your local golf course, maybe they have a demo one you can try out on the range, something. Just try it out, see what it feels like both off the tee and off the deck, whether it's the Titleist GT280, whether it's the Callaway Elite Mini, or the new R7 Quad. They're all three fantastic. Just see what it feels like to hit in both scenarios, and the distance that you might get. It can be a big benefit. Jake was in awe of just really how much interest it's been garnering.
Yeah, and you guys, also tested them all head to head to head. So if you're looking for, maybe some insight into which one kind of fits your game, they did a great comparison, comparing them both off the turf and off the tee. So you kind of get a good idea of which ones perform best where. So that's a great idea. And then obviously on this week's Live at Lunch, Kevin Kraft's going to join the show as well. Yep. Tyler Fitzel, I believe, too. And we're going to compare kind of that, lofted down 3-wood versus a mini driver, even the TSR 2 Plus, which was kind of almost served that 2-wood purpose for Titleist, So we're going to compare all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's also, a very common question. Well, I have a 3-wood. Why would I need this? And we're just going to show you the differences.
That's the most common comment on any of the mini driver videos we posted is like, what is it? Why is this different than a 3-wood? Or why do I need this versus the driver 3-wood setup that I have? And so we're hoping to answer that question with our Live at Lunch. Again, that's Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. We're going to be live testing those out. And it's going to be kind of cool, too. We're trying this out where we're going to have Kevin join us remotely from our Columbia store. We've been working on the behind-the-scenes tech stuff to make that happen. So join us for that. Should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm just curious myself. Like TSR 2 Plus, that's at 13 degrees. Testing that against the GT280, both off the tee and off the deck, just to see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, well, let's go from Kevin to Kevin. We'll go from Kevin Kraft coming on Thursday to Kevin Streelman joining the show now, Drew.
Yeah, again, this was an awesome, first of all, really cool to just have him in the store, to join us for some content. I know some is already up on the YouTube channel, already up on a previous podcast episode, but he tells great stories. He has a really cool perspective, and it's also cool to hear him. He clearly has a lot of sentimental value with these particular putters that he talks about in this discussion as well, and what they've done for his career, certain milestones he met. So really cool discussion with him about these cool putters.
We now welcome back onto the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Special guest Kevin Streelman, two-time winner on the PGA Tour. First, Kevin, thank you for the time. Welcome back. I want to talk to you about equipment this time. I know in the previous segment with you was a lot about your career, so stories from tour. But after all, we're kind of a golf equipment company. So I know you're a gearhead, collector of golf clubs, and putters. So wanted to get into that. First thing I wanted to do, you've got some putters with you there.
Yeah.
So I guess, and those are, we talked a little bit kind of off camera, off air, just about how, the significance of each of those and what they've done for your career. So I wanted to kind of give you the chance to just talk through each of those, what, when you've used them, what you like about each of them. I mean, literally just going to let you run through each of those 5 putters.
Well, it's just, I don't even know where to start. It's like putters to me, I've always loved trying different feels, trying different grips, trying different faces. Probably to my detriment. Like I probably, like if I could go back and tell my son who's starting golf, let's pick you one putter built to you, and then you get great with that putter.
Yeah.
You're going to have ups and downs, but that's your baby, and you got to take care of it. Sometimes your son misbehaves. You don't leave him. You know, it's like you stay with your son.
Yeah.
And so this is your baby. And so that's kind of what I wish I had done. But all that being said, I wasn't very good at that. So I do have a ton of putters. I do like trying different stuff. I do believe in like new technologies that I think are really good. But at the end of the day, you look at what Tiger did, you look at what Stricker did, you look at what like Jordan Spieth has done, like some of the best putters you name, they pretty much had one wand that they stuck with.
Yeah.
And so probably the worst thing I could do was get my tour card, and then I all of a sudden had access to any putter I wanted.
Right.
And so going back here, you know, this was the 2-ball blade. This is like the old Annika. You know, this thing's about to pop off. What I'm going to do when that happens. But I've always just loved, the toe hang, but also the look of like a straight line kind of Newport or Ping Answer type like blade look. But I always feel the plumber's neck is, to me, for my stroke, the right amount of rotation to get that ball rolling.
Okay.
And so that's kind of, I would always start with the neck that probably allows you to roll the ball the best. Some of us are straight back, some of us flare it like crazy, and there's whether it's a flange, whether it's a plumber's neck, whether it's a center shaft, whether it's face balance, like there's no right answer for that, but there is a right answer for you.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think is a good place to start and to believe in. So that being said, I've loved the look of this putter. I love the idea the balls are easy to line up. And I always love the old white hot face.
Yeah.
Which now that I brought this back on tour this year, I Mondayed at Sony with this putter, made 3 of my first 4 cuts with this putter, had a nice 15th at Torrey with this putter. The Odyssey guys were like, well, you know, we got the AI face now, and so they're trying to make the new putter with the AI face. And I go, that is cool technology, and it's probably would be beneficial. This is what I like the feel of.
Yeah.
And so this is what I have been sticking.
Sure.
So all that being said, this putter is probably older than some of the people watching this podcast, but to my eye, it works, and I'm confident that when I have a big putt that means something, it's going to put it where I want to. So that's really the most important of all of this.
Okay.
So
is that one
that
you
is a
would
good one to
consider?
start.
You'd consider that one in the bag right now?
This is definitely in the bag right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I said, you guys might have it for sale over there for like $34 maybe, this putter. Like it's definitely not the top level condition that you guys pick. But to me, it sits square and it rolls a ball where I want it to go. And so that's pretty good. And then, you know, kind of along those same lines, this guy, I think I have like 400 some starts on the PGA Tour. I probably have like 250 or 300 of them with this old Scotty Newport 2. And it's no tour issue, Circle T, GSS, none of that stuff. Like this is off the rack. There's actually Sharpie I put on the top that well,
that's just Sharpie.
Just Sharpie. Huh. I did have the Duke Blue painted dot right there, but that's literally it. I had my buddy Aaron Valdez, who's now at True Spec, drill to get weight up on the heel and toe, which could be something that maybe I like the feel of, that gives me some stabilization. But all we were trying to do is increase swing weight, because it was a 330 gram head, and I'm down at like 33 3/4 length. So to get it up to the D5, D6 swing weight, which I like the feel of, we had to drill tungsten into the toe and the heel. So that was kind of a one part that's kind of unique to this. But besides that, this is just an off-the-rack Scotty that just, in my eye, sits just perfectly square. But this is the one at Hartford where I one-putted the last 10 holes and birdied the last 7 is with this putter here. So this is another one of those that will never be leaving my house, or my son will never be able to put this in his
there's
bag.
a lot of there's a lot of sentimental value to that one.
Yeah, that one means a lot. And then kind of, you know, it's fun. My first time ever to the Scotty Cameron studio, that's a memory I had. That was always like a dream of mine, and I couldn't get in there forever. I was on the mini tours. I think I was leading both the Gateway Tour money list and the Hooters Tour money list at the same time. I was kind of bouncing back and forth, was having a really good summer the year before I got my tour card, so they finally let me go into the studio and get fit, and this is what I got. And it's just an old Laguna 2.5 that has the same weights, portals in the bottom, weight ports in the bottom that got us up to swing weight, kind of the same deal. But I've always been a thin top line guy, and to me this is like one of the thinnest ones Scotty ever did, and it's just, you know, similar to the Ping, like Fax Day. No, that was Scotty. The ping one was the.
I'm trying to remember what that shape was. Hold on.
I'll think of it. But anyway, it's just a look, a good flow. Once again, it has the plumber's neck, and that swing weight where I want it with the the iambic grips. I always like the nice flat top line on it, and rolls nice. So
yeah,
that one's kind of good sentimental value as well. This one is like probably the coolest, probably the most valuable one I own too, because this is one of the Tiger heads that got so famous, obviously, from the 15, or he won 14 of his majors with his GSS Newport 2, and this is the GSS Newport 2 Tiger head, thin top line, dot on the top, Cameron & Co., 350 grams. It's got the KS initials on the toe, and it's blank on the bottom, tri-sole. I got my tour card 6th round with this putter, so that's means a lot to me.
That's really cool.
I wish he'd still made putters that look exactly like this.
Yeah.
They've gotten, in my opinion, like a little blockier, a little wider, thicker. Like I said, I like that thin face, promotes feel to me, almost more trampoline effect, but it's just like, it's got that feel.
Yeah.
It's hard to really describe it, but
Right.
I think it comes from that face being very thin. And so this to me is probably the best Newport style putter that was ever made.
Yeah.
And there aren't a lot of them. So
well,
I've
that
got a
exact
couple.
style has won plenty. I mean,
Won
it's done a lot of good for a lot of good players.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, talk about historic. What else do I have? Oh, this is what I won my first PGA Tour event with in Tampa. And just the old Golo.
Yeah.
The little wider Golo. I did the T line on the top, which I kind of liked, went straight into the ball, and then I felt I could square it off to my target line pretty well. Got a little lead tape on the bottom, across the middle of it to get it up to swing weight.
I see some kind of royal blue accents or trim on that. Is that a Duke thing?
Always a Duke blue stuff.
Yeah.
I put some scripture on the toe, but the one difference here, so it is a, less of a. Well, that's a good question. Is this the same toe hang?
I was going to ask about that because the neck is different.
This, it is a different neck. So see how there's a touch more toe hang in the Newport than on the Golo.
Yep.
And so, once again, that's total preference. There's not a right or a wrong. But the cool thing that I tell people who are testing putters or want to see the difference, if you can go into a studio like yours and see the roll percentage or see the roll face to path, how square you're getting it at impact, how are you getting it there? Maybe a more face balanced tendency, people would kind of go out and hold it to in versus a very, like a Justin Leonard type stroke, or Ben Crenshaw with more of like an 8802, 8813, one of those like old putters.
Really bring the putter on an arc.
Really swing.
Yep.
So that promotes you going into out. We all have our strokes. So it's like, it's not necessarily having a perfect stroke, but it's having your perfect stroke and being consistent with it and then building a putter around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys do so well here. You have all the options of all the necks, of all the weights, of all the putters.
Yeah.
Historic, I mean, actually.
Yeah.
And without the preference of saying it's only Ping or it's only Scotty or it's only Wilson. Like it's cool that it's just, no, it's what's best for your client. It's what's best for your customer.
Yeah.
And so I've won with both. So there's not necessarily a perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it's really cool that you have there's a little bit of a variety in your putters too. So you've got, obviously that's sort of a rounded mid mallet almost, a Golo head with the sort of double bend neck. But then you've got obviously the plumber's necks with the Newports and Newport 2.
Lagunas,
So no, that's fascinating. And kind of on that note, I wanted to ask too about just in general your philosophy on changing equipment. So, and it could be related to putters or it could be driver, iron, whatever it is. But like, what kind of testing do you do to actually make a change?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because I know so often it's about, you see guys when they're on contracts, it's like, all right, get the new stuff in the bag. I guess for you, what does that testing process look like, and what do you need to see before you swap?
I hope to start the year with the same 14 clubs that I finished the year with. That's always the hope at the start of the year. Does it happen? Not too frequently. I would say historically, I've always found irons pretty easy to kind of dial in and get right. Maybe that's because I've played the same Wilson set pretty much for the last like 14, 15 years I've been on tour. It's a blade looking slight cavity player club that feels incredible. Same lies and loft every year, the same shaft. I played a Project X 6.5 for years.
Okay.
Since college, really. I mean, for 25 years, I played the same shaft. And it's kind of one of those, could I optimize? Maybe a little bit, but when I see my 6-iron at 6,000 RPMs, which is ideal, or my 5-iron at 5,000 RPM spin rate I'm talking about, with the ball that I play, there's not much else to think about. If you like you like the look of something, you like the feel of something, which I've always loved with that CG of Wilson. And so, it's and then wedges should be pretty easy as well. You know, you kind of pick your grind that's most versatile, I would say. I like to I'm not the type of guy who goes, oh, I'm going to the British Open, I want to take bounce off, and I'm here in Florida and it's mushy, I don't want to add bounce. Like, I kind of want to have a versatile wedge that I feel comfortable on both of those options. And I have always found like a 59, 60 degree, I bounced around from Wilson, I bounced around from Vokey, but they're pretty much old Cleveland 588s that I grew up with when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, what I learned the game on, that type of bounce. And just a clean looking, standard, good lob wedge and sand wedge. And so I go 59, 53, 47. So I have 6 degrees between each of my wedges. Switch those out probably every month or two as far as the amount of golf that I play and our accessibility on tour. My irons will pretty much last all year. Get rid of those at the end of each year just to get fresh grooves. And then driver, 3-wood. I've had probably my 5-wood is my baby that I've kind of stuck with.
I have I've done some research as to what model it is.
Oh, yeah.
So the Ping G, right?
It's a G.
So the G is a 2016 maybe?
Yeah.
2015?
Maybe 15. Yeah, I bet it's 10 years old.
Is that just? I'm getting the sense from just talking to you that there's a look and feel element that is hard for you to deviate from.
There's a trust.
Yeah.
It goes 241 all day, every day, with the same spin rate. Like, there's no surprises.
Yeah.
We want the ball to go as far as possible. And some of the new 5-woods and like, you've hit them and they're like, that thing's awesome, but it's gone. Like, there's no chance that's landing on a long par 3 or a par 5 and stopping. Yeah. So that's why my 5-wood, I almost view it as like a long iron, because I want it to go 241. I don't want it to go 255, and I don't want it to go 225. So I love that it's very consistent. I get it a little shorter, I get it a little heavier, so that takes away that kind of shot, in my opinion. And it also helps me pop it out of the rough pretty easily. So it's been a very versatile club. I've been doing it that way for 15 years probably. It has been with Ping. I've had a few TaylorMade along the way. I've had a few Wilson. But right now this G is just kind of, if I need to hit a fairway, I'm not feeling great with driving through it. It's like,
so there's no reason to expect that'll come out of the bag anytime soon? No. The 3-wood and driver, I've been a Ping guy most of my career. It was pretty much plug and play from the Gs to the G5, G10, G20, G400. G400 Max, I had a 2-year window that I drove at probably the best of my career, and was like top 25 in strokes gained driver. And I was also like the shortest guy. Like, if I had another 10 yards, I'd have been top 3 in that. So, and then I remember in Vegas, they take our drivers once every few months to test them. It was 1 point over on the bounce test, which now we know there's like 3 degrees of variance. So I could have fought for it, but at the time we didn't have that right to do. And so they took that driver from me. And that's a whole nother, I don't believe you should be able to do that the day before our competition. Yeah. And just be like, oh, now, Ping's trying to pack up, but now they got to build me a driver real quick. Where I've used the same thing for 2 years, competed in major championships and player championships, and like had success. And all of a sudden, you're going to take away the most important piece of equipment in my bag just because it's 1 point over on like the high heel where no one even hits it. Right. I got a problem with that. Yeah. And so I got that out. But that being said, right now, this year, I switched to the Elite, the Callaway Elite. Oh. I found that very consistent across the face, pretty darn straight, and really nice feel. So Very good. Yeah, I mean, it's been really good feedback on the elites and bays too.
Yeah, actually the 3-wood too. I've been messing with that 3-wood as well. So
yeah, well, that's kind of a fun look in the bag there. Yeah, that was awesome. Because and you answered a question I had too there, which was like, if you mentioned kind of with your irons, you like to see 5,000 with the 5 iron, 6, so when you're testing new clubs, there's probably a little bit also like now with the technology we have today of launch monitor readings and get the numbers that you want, while also still for you, I know it needs to be pleasing to the eye and needs to feel good. It's kind of a combination of both of those things probably during your testing. Well,
and it's a great progression. I didn't quite fully answer your question, but like I'll want to try a new club, like up at Whisperock playing for $20 with my buddies, and like see what it's like on 18 with actually a little pressure.
Oh, okay.
And then maybe it makes it a trip to the next tour event, and I'll use it during the practice rounds, and then in the pro-am, and then maybe give it a shot in the show. Okay. But I always have an extra one or two with me. I usually have 2 drivers and 2 putters that travel with me. Driver in case it breaks or you want to try something new, and putter in case they stop behaving. Yeah. But it is important to the amount of flights we go on, the amount of like our bags get banged around. Oh, yeah. Commercial airlines. So you got to be pretty careful with that.
Yeah. I mean, so kind of in starting to wrap here, I know this is obviously it's been really cool to kind of get a look into the mind of Kevin Streelman when it comes to equipment. What advice do you have for amateur players? So I know you probably through your career you've probably played with all kinds. I mean, you said you play with your buddies, but even like even in pro-ams and stuff, I'm sure you see all kinds of things. What advice do you have for amateurs when it comes to their equipment on the equipment side?
Well, it probably starts with the understanding that there are clubs, shafts, alignment, things that can help you, and you need to definitely attack and go after those potential benefits that are available to you. And a place here like Second Swing is just, like I said, for gearheads and nerds like us, it's the greatest thing in the world. Like you got every 3-wood, 5-wood driver, putter for the last 50 years, like sitting right here. Mm-hmm. Get fit, get adjusted, check out your lies and lofts and stuff. You want to get those all where they need to be. And then once you see the improvement, maybe a little better launch, a little less spin, you got to go just play. Mm-hmm. You got to go just play and see what it does when it matters. Yeah. And the cool thing that you guys have here too at Second Swing is we have 30 days to bring it back and say, what, it spun a little more on the course than I saw here. Could I let's find one with a little stiffer shaft or maybe a little less torque or something like that. That's what's so cool, because you probably have it sitting right there and you can go try that now. Because what we see here on the launch monitors, it's a great starting point, but it's not the golf course. Yeah. So you need to get nervous. You need to get on the course with your buddies and making fun of each other and a few bucks on the line, a few beers in the body and stuff. But you need to test it out in the real world. And that's what's so nice about a place like this.
I appreciate that you're referring to the real world as playing with a few bucks on the line and some beers in with the buddies, in the same way that the real world for you is probably out on the PGA Tour playing for millions of dollars.
Well, I enjoy both. I really do enjoy both, which is what I need to in the game to still be in love with it for as long as I've done it. You got to enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful game that we get to play with our friends and our families for hopefully a long time in our lives. Yeah. And so that's what I love so much about it.
Well, Kevin, this is awesome. Appreciate you bringing in the putters. Yeah. It was really cool. But it's been great to pick your brain a little bit.
My pleasure.
So we wish you the best of luck moving forward with competing on the PGA Tour. But again, thanks for swinging by. It's been awesome to talk to you about golf equipment.
Anytime. Love doing it.
And that was Kevin Streelman talking about his, favorite putters from his career. I like that there's kind of a mix to a little bit of, there's some Scotty Cameron in there, a couple different, I think there's an Odyssey in there. He's always so focused on what looks good and what feels good to him. That's the number one priority when picking out and playing a putter in his bag, is it has to look good, has to sit the right way for him at address. And clearly those ones did, and they worked for him. So that was a great discussion with him. And then obviously now we've got Justin Smith, head coach of the University of Minnesota golf team. talking about team golf, and it's such a different dynamic. I had a little bit of experience playing college golf, but it and even in high school golf, it's just so different than any other competitive event when you're typically on your own. You're in your own little world, as I think McElroy alluded to several times at Augusta, is trying to stay in his own little world out there. Can't really do that to that extent in these college events when you have your score is not just for yourself, but the team is riding on you as well. So talk about that dynamic here with Justin. Now welcoming back on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, it is Justin Smith, head golf coach of the University of Minnesota men's golf team. And Justin, first of all, thank you for joining.
Happy to be here.
The Coach's Corner series. It's been fun. It's been fun to do it.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot about how you guys operate, and the time of year we're doing this is certainly a good time to dive into some of that stuff with how cold it is.
Yeah.
And, you guys dealing with the weather, but still, as we saw in Puerto Rico, still able to compete with some of the better programs in college golf. So, anyway, thank you for making the time. This has been fun so far.
No, I love it. This is an incredible opportunity to talk about college golf, and hopefully, really, really high level. At least the way we think about it at a high level,
yeah.
And what we try to do to get our players ready to go compete against the best.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we wanted to discuss here in this particular segment. Is there's so much, you watch golf on TV, and very rarely is that golf a team-oriented event. You have your Ryder Cup, you have not even the Olympics really is a team event. I mean, you have players representing their countries, but there's so few of the golf tournaments you watch on TV are team-oriented, whereas that's all, I know there's an individual element to college golf, but like you're trying to build a team environment. And so what is that process like, building the team environment for you with the Gophers, and really trying to make sure these players it is a team camaraderie that you're building versus, Joe, you go play your round and, you guys go work on your game, shoot your score, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we talk about, I read a quote the other day, difference between good and great teams, and it's the standards and expectations that the coach kind of sets, and then the players really got to buy into it, and the players really got to be about it. It starts in recruiting, right? Like we've had an interesting story, right? When we were recruiting Angus Flanagan back in, it's probably 2016. Angus was kind of really late in the game of recruiting. I had a really great contact that knew him and his dad, and Angus wanted to play, the best collegiate golf he could, and knowing he's from England himself, not 100%, right? Like used to perfect southern weather, right? He would get there and he'd kind of travel over the world and play tournaments, but we knew, okay, that can kind of help us a little bit. But he came and visited Minnesota, and then the day after his visit, he went and visited UNLV. And when I kind of found that out, I was like, oh my gosh, we got no shot, right? So went to UNLV. A few days after that, called us and says, hey, I want to be a Gopher. And we were just ecstatic, right? Like Angus was so accomplished, won the Karras Trophy. He was an incredible junior player, played for the English national team. So big deal. Huge opportunity for us to springboard our program in the direction we wanted to. And I always ask whether players kind of give us the answer we want or the answer we don't want, right? Is, what led you to that decision? And so no pressure. I'm not prying, but I just curious. What could we do better in recruiting? What works and whatnot? And he said, there's a team environment here. He said UNLV, like a little bit more on their own, and coach kind of goes one-on-one with players, and then they kind of go to tournaments and do their thing. And that can work. There's no question. Like there's a lot of programs, successful programs that can do it. But I think at Minnesota, when we're battling some weather stuff, when we're battling some challenges that a lot of other programs might not have, we got to shift the focus and kind of bring the team environment to where I always look at areas, what can we be the best in the country at? And hopefully, by no reason I think we're there yet with the team environment, but that's something that's such a priority, and it brings a group of guys together. We're a very small group in the whole scheme of things, brings them together. Hopefully, when you're playing for something bigger than yourself, it brings a better performance out. And it's something we try to focus on and try to structure. And in recruiting, we make it very evident and known to them that that's what we're going to do. And if you're going to come in here and think that you're just going to do it all on your own and do your own thing, like, we're not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something we communicated early on. It helps us with Angus.
Right.
He had an amazing career. Someone like Ben Warren, who just graduated and starting his pro career, right? That was what he was all about. Great teammate, great leader. But we're going to do it together. And doesn't mean that we don't have individual meetings and we have individual plans for them to develop. But we're all going to share this space together. We're going to be about it. We're going to be a collaborative environment. Yeah. And that's hopefully what we'll always be about.
So you're, kind of right away before, a player even chooses Minnesota, it's kind of, you're laying out this and building that foundation for this team first environment where now, because, we've talked in, whether it's previous segments or even off air about kind of some of the things that you do, when you have practice time. And it's, there's an element of, your stat tracking to see what specific things a player might need to work on, but then there's also another element of competitions, friendly but also heated competitions with the team of that kind of build a team culture, so to speak.
Each one of our guys on our team knows that for them to achieve the ultimate goal, I think, college golf, to win a team national championship, team Big Ten championship, get into the postseason team, right? They need more than themselves to be able to do it. And so how do we kind of fuel that fire a little bit is through a lot of competitions at practice. We just did a 3v3, like broke our team up, and they were competing against each other in 3 different teams. But within those 3 teams, right, they're really helping each other.
Right.
And so when you're out there competing in a tournament, it's you, and it's the biggest challenge is the golf, right? There is no coach that can say, hey, come sit down for a couple minutes and refresh. Get a guy out there that can, kind of piece it together, and then we'll get you back in the game, right? Like, you're out there all the time. And so there's a lot of things to balance with that to make sure they have what they need. But that's where the team can really lift you. And so we try to do that in our practices. We have 6 guys that all live with each other. We have our 3 freshmen that live with each other. So between 2 places, they're always together.
Oh, wow.
So that off-the-course stuff is imperative for them to kind of grow as a team together. And as a coach, like, it gives me a lot of comfort and a lot of excitement that, they're all in it for each other too. Yeah,
that's an easy way there to build that camaraderie is having them all together. I mean, off the course, because to that point, like, when you guys are at events and, someone, one of the players has a poor round or is kind of feeling down about, maybe they missed a big opportunity, whatever the case might be. I'm sure it's a huge thing to have the team there to pick them up.
Yes.
And maybe it's going to dinner that night or whatever it is. You kind of start to forget about what went wrong in this particular hole or particular round and move on, because the way team golf works in the format is like you're needed just as much the next day, whether you shot a 75 or a 65.
Yeah. One of our important parts when we were getting ready for our first event in Puerto Rico was for 2 days of practice. When we knew the 5 individuals who were going to play, we put them in one of our hitting bays. We turned the simulators on. We were running through YouTube flyovers, through TrackMan, like creating the shots, creating the visuals, knowing where wind direction was, because we were getting close enough to the tournament that with the weather patterns were pretty predictable. But we had all 5 guys in there with us coaches. I didn't hardly do any talking. And it was our leaders and our team that was talking about decisions on how to play a certain hole, where the wind is, like where our misses are, all that kind of stuff. And when you get the group as a whole doing that, like, I think the impact is that much greater. So it's something for us. It was like, gosh, this is really successful. It's really good. Create an awesome learning environment. That's what we want to continue to do for every tournament and every opportunity kind of in front of us to compete. So just another example of, we talked about earlier with all the technology and the great advances that we have, but how it builds a team as well, like that allows it to do that. And I think us coaches, we're just trying to, create the group and to create the setting and the environment for them, and they run with it. Right. That's when hey, we got a pretty cool team here. It's a lot of fun to be around.
That's what you're recruiting is sort of this, the personality and the character and the person that can fit that scheme of things. The collaborative environment, and then now, like you said, you really didn't do much in that scenario, and they're just working together to help each other in that scenario, which that's really cool, because that's that's how team golf is. It's individual in the sense that like each player has their own shots to hit, their own score to make, but the team environment is everybody coming together to do it for each other.
Yep.
Which is, it's kind of a weird thing because in other sports, it's like there's obviously in football there's 11 guys on the field, and then you play offense, and nobody very rarely is a player playing on both sides. So there's so much more that is relied on the teammates for, right? And your own individual performance can only be so much for the team success. But in golf, it does have a lot more impact individually. So making sure they're in the right space and there's a support system there is pretty valuable, I imagine.
Yeah, we've been fortunate to have 4 team wins, the last 4 years, and we had 2 individual wins. One individual win, actually no, correct me if I'm wrong. We had I think 4 individual wins. So 3 of the individual wins came at a time where the team didn't win, and 1 individual win came when the team won at the same time. When that individual win happened when the team won, there was never any talk about the individual win.
Yeah.
It was all about the team. And when we get in the vans or we get in the bus and we leave the course after that, right? Like the energy is incredible. And that's why I want to do coaching, right? I was fortunate to do as a player, but the thrill I have as a coach is far greater than I had as a player to experience that or see a group do that, because they can never take that away. So the success breeds the team environment, no question, right? And so it's on us to keep figuring out how to get our players better. But that's what makes it. That's what's so fun to see a group really come together, and it's off the course stuff.
Yeah.
We go to Timberwolves games. We do dinners. We do a formal night. Our guys call it kind of like prom night or whatever you want to do, formal golf or prom night or whatever. We live in those, and we have alumni that are around, and we really try to celebrate these things off the course. That hopefully even adds much more to the strength of our team as a unit versus the individual aspect. Yeah.
What's the I guess the I don't know if it's communication, but when you're in a tournament, do you encourage conversation between the players when they're on the course? Maybe they walk by each other on a fairway, or is it do you encourage them to kind of, because there's probably a trust factor too there of you have to trust that this player is doing what they got to do, they're staying in their lane, they're staying disciplined with their game, or do you kind of encourage them to stop by each other, speak, hey, the pin's doing this on this hole? Like I know you as there's a certain rules against some of that stuff. But.
No, there is, right? The only communication when the tournament's actually going on that can exist between players is really just very informal. It can't be anything strategic with the course. It all has to come through coaches. Yeah, it's kind of a funny deal. And sometimes there have been spots where there's backups on tees.
Yeah.
And we've even played tournaments where all 5 of our guys play together. So the advice rule gets really kind of tricky, and
right.
I've had a player say, hey, coach, I hit 8 iron on this par 3, and you've got other guys that are sitting there listening to it. But it's got to be directed to us, right?
Yeah.
So there's some funny things like that we got to keep in mind. But really for me, when the tournament goes, if we've done our job as coaches, we've prepared them in the practice round, we've prepared them at home to have every bit of information they need to perform in the tournament. Once the tournament goes off, once we really are kind of competing, to me it's about decision making and body language and attitude.
I was going to ask about body
That's
language.
all
too.
I'm watching.
Yeah.
I don't watch the scores online unless we're getting close to the end of a round, and I kind of might need to know what guys are doing, checking scores, handing the scorecards, and then just kind of seeing the trends of players, and do I need to kind of get to that player to help them on the key hole? That's about it. But for me, I can tell enough with the body language. So our team knows it. They know my trends. They know what's important to me. And that's what we got to be about, because, I think Coach Fleck was at our practice recently.
Oh, yeah.
From Minnesota football. And he said 72% of the communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there processing him, and he's got all these stats, right? He's incredible at this stuff. So
I feel like nobody looks into that more than he does, probably.
100%, right? Yeah. I know I'm throwing a lot of percents out right now, but yeah, no, nobody gets into that stuff as much as he does. So he said 72% is nonverbal. So you think about all that time on a course, for out there for a 36 hole day, and we're out there for 11 hours. What is 72% of that? So if our guys have the best attitudes, aren't making the right decisions, the body language is bad, and all of the rest of our players are going to see that.
Right.
What's that going to do to the group? So, whether I feel like I'm, kind of kicking a dead horse with all this stuff with their players, and they get kind of sick of it.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's so powerful, and that's just what we try to be about. And we certainly got a group now that's, I think they do an incredible job at it, and it really lifts everybody.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Are the players able to follow scores live? And then part B to that is, do you encourage that, or do you is it more of like a, stay focused on your task type of thing?
Yeah. There's multiple ways, right? One of the huge advances in college golf has been the online scoring platforms, right? So families and parents all over the world can follow what the team's doing. What comes into that is sometimes we get to tournaments, if we don't have enough volunteers or enough supporters in the community, right, they have to kind of input their scores digitally or on their phones. Mm-hmm. What comes of that is they're going to be checking how the team's doing, how they're doing. Some guys probably respond really well to it. Some guys probably don't. I don't have full control, right? If I'm trying to take full control over these guys staying off their phones, it's a dead end quickly here.
Right.
Knowing how attached they are and how attached we all are to these devices, right? So I hope that they use it to their advantage. I hope they're not looking a ton, because at the end, is it really going to change what they do a ton? It shouldn't, but I think it's impossible to completely avoid. So
no, I was just curious because I play. I mean, I've played in a couple events a year where there's some scoring or qualifiers where you can just do the same thing, and I'm very much a person that, for better or worse, I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I at? Where am I at on the leaderboard? And that I bet if you were to look at it and do some research on it, it probably hurts me more than it helps me. So, but yeah, I think I can totally see where that and the body language piece comes together, because again, when it comes to a team environment, there's your individual responsibility has such greater impact in golf versus the individual responsibility of, say, a basketball player, hockey player in that particular contest. So there's making sure that the support is there and the team and culture is there. It has to be a much bigger deal for you probably than maybe other, in a way, other sports or other teams, just because of that piece to it.
Well, we're a small group, right? We have 9 student athletes. We have 2 coaches. We have director of ops. We got a great support staff. But really, it's 11 of us every day in our facility. And this time of year, when we're so confined to an area, and we don't have the big golf courses, we don't have the outdoor practice area we have. It's a little bit more spread out. From my end, to try to read our players, what kind of day they're having. You never know how a class went or a conversation went at home, or kind of plans they have after practice that they might be focused on. So when I get them for that 2 hours, really trying to read them and figuring out, are they mentally there for their own benefit, right? We know that's the best environment for their own benefit to develop. But what that does to the rest of the group is something I try to read a ton, and the interactions they have with the group. So the team environment is crucial to make sure that everyone's doing their deal and bringing their best version of themselves, which is going to lift everybody. Yeah. And so what does that mean? Yeah, hopefully that means that the learning environment's great, but it's going to help them improve their games and shoot better scores, because at the end of the day, we're just totaling up golf scores, throwing out our worst score. But there's so much other stuff that I think that contributes to that is so much more than just hitting a golf ball. Yeah. So that team is crucial, and it'll always be important to us and a priority to us. So
going back to recruiting here to kind of start wrapping, but when you are, let's say right now there's, a high school golfer that's watching or listening, and they want to be a golfer someday, what would you, I guess, share with them on, well, this is what we need from you to fit with our with this program, right? This is the type of XYZ that you're going to have to be to fit in with us.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal question and kind of observation with it. So I always tell people I learn more from the hour before they play and the hour after they play versus when they play. When they're out there on their own and I can't completely hide from everybody, right? I've got my Minnesota gear on and watching and seeing parent, right? So it's easy for everybody to act accordingly, as I kind of put it. But before and after, there might be times where I can kind of sit in my car and kind of watch a range session or watch how they interact with teammates. That's where I learn and what kind of a player we're going to get. When they know maybe I'm not around, maybe I left, but you kind of use our time to our advantage here.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not trying to be like a spy, but at the same time, like I'm really trying to see the true self. In just knowing the coach, knowing the program, knowing how they run things, kind of like figuring out team practices, or is it all individual based, right? Because I know that like we do some one-on-one stuff with our players, but so much of it is team based and they're around their teammates. So are they used to that, or are they not used to it? Like those are kind of things that I'm always trying to figure out to how it's going to transition into our program. And there's not one it's like specific example of a player that's going to work. There's a lot of different players that have worked. But I need to know, like, are they okay in the team environment? Do they love it? Do they not like it? If they just want to do their own thing and go off to the side, like, it's probably not the right fit.
Right.
And you can really spot that at the high school level. Being a great teammate is as important as anything. And you knew that from your days, right?
Yeah.
Like your college golf days and kind of growing up. And but that's what we try to identify.
Yeah.
And I promise you, it adds to the experience. They're going to have so much of a better experience because of it.
I mean, it's especially, with the student athletes that you're recruiting, right? These are kids that, I mean, by and large are the best player on their team probably by a margin, right? And so it's important to for them probably to stay grounded in that sense of not be bigger than the team.
Right.
And you can still do your own work. And, if you have a swing coach or whatever that you've mentioned before, how that's kind of changed over the years, is a lot of these guys have swing coaches now, but to still then maintain sort of an involvement with the team, even if your scores are, 15 shots difference or whatever it might be on a given day, still being kind of that team player with everything.
Yeah, we keep going back to our Puerto Rico tournament, right? But we have the guys that didn't travel, their impact on the team when we're thousands of miles away can be as great as anything. What I mean by that is we had individuals that were every night or wanting to learn about, what was going on the course, a little bit of the summaries of what's working, what's not working, and then offering that encouragement, offering that support from thousands of miles away, knowing that, hey, we're 9 guys in this, right? We're just not 5 on the road. We need everybody. And so we have great guys that, I'm sure they'd love to be playing more and competing more, but unfortunately at this stage they haven't been. But them being great teammates and supporting guys on the road and saying, hey, let's go get it, like, enjoy the day, we can do this, the last day at Puerto Rico, like we had the round of the day going against all the other teams there. So all those little things can be such huge benefits. And like I said, what are the things we can be great at without even hitting a golf ball, right? How do we improve our team without hitting a ball? Well, building a great team environment can be such a huge benefit.
Yeah, exactly. That's that speaks to, it's another element too of competing while kind of being up in this northern climate. Like it's another thing that you guys probably have to focus on a little bit more than other programs, just to make sure you have that competitive edge that you guys can get versus a team that's playing actual golf all year round. But like you said, that's the way golf is such a mental sport, and taking advantage of that, not hitting a ball but still improving. You probably have to embrace that as much as you can. We do. We got to get creative as much as anybody, but it's also adds to the excitement of everything we do. Yeah, makes it that much better. Yeah. Well, Justin, we appreciate you swinging by today, stopping in the. I like that. Yeah, stopping by in the studio and giving us the lowdown on really what college golf is like nowadays, and especially how you guys do it. It sounds like everything is, it's a pretty fun operation you guys got going there, and you're seeing some early positive results, at least in the 2025 season here. So. We appreciate you joining. This has been great. Thanks for having me. We got a long way to go, but we're excited about the journey that we're on. That was Justin Smith, head golf coach, University of Minnesota. That team dynamic is it's different, and it's I understand why he places such an emphasis on that on the fit with that dynamic when he's recruiting golfers.
Yeah, and I thought the story about, Angus Flanagan, who's, very good golfer for their program, like why he chose them over UNLV, and it was because, you talked about the team aspect, and that's what I want. I want to not just have teammates, but have friends and people to root for and, accomplish something together. And obviously Justin knows what it means to accomplish something together, being a part of the Gophers, national championship team from a northern school, which is pretty rare. So really interesting stuff. We really appreciated Justin for the 3 episodes. We're hoping to do some more here in the coming months, years, but just to kind of give you an inside look at what college golf is like, because I think for a lot of us, it's not on TV all the time, so you don't quite understand how it works. And then especially for those who you look at the northern schools, how do they handle not having golf courses open? So it's really, really cool stuff. So really appreciate Justin for coming in on.
And again, these are some of the whether you're talking about the Gophers themselves or the teams they're playing against, these are the future stars of the PGA Tour. Guys that are going to be contending in majors, guys and gals for that matter, that are going to be contending in majors soon. So really cool to get the perspective there and see what that world is like from Justin over those few discussions we've had with him. So coming up on YouTube, we've talked about the Live at Lunch this week. We've also hinted on some various other series out there, but obviously our Fitter's Choice series is rolling on Mondays. Each Monday we have a new category of sort of the top clubs as voted on by our fitters. So we're rolling through that. Stay tuned. Again, that's on Mondays. We've also got some more content with Kate Smith-Stroh, some comparisons with her. We talked about did an iron shaft comparison with her, and then also down the line we've also got a kind of a 3-wood versus a 4-wood conversation with her, where during a fitting with Blaine, she was fit for a 4-wood, but she's got a sentimental value and a connection to her current 3-wood that she couldn't, at least at the time when we were filming with her, couldn't quite depart with. So there was a little TrackMan test between those. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for that, plus our Tour Van series from the Tour Van. That's going to be starting back up on Fridays as well, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and I know here on the Second Swing Thoughts side, we have a pretty prominent name in golf club design that'll be joining us here shortly. One of the iconic names, especially when it comes to wedges. So you're really going to enjoy that and the deep dives we're going to do into wedge design and technology. So stay tuned for that. Other things on the Second Swing side, obviously we have our Fitter's Choice winners. You can go to secondswing.com to see them. We break them down by category. As Drew mentioned, our fitters kind of voted on all these. The top 2 from each of the vote tallies, are the winners. So whether you need a low spin driver, a core driver, a player's distance iron, a player's iron, game improvement, whatever category there are, there's winners for each style. So go check those out. And then as always, make sure you check out our best value clubs. Usually a generation old or 2 generations old clubs in incredible condition, going for, obviously awesome prices. That's why they're great value, because they perform really well, and you can save a little money rather than always having to go brand new. So good stuff there. Yeah,
I'll add just some context for the Cobra Dark Speed drivers. Those have been an excellent value for a while now. I think reading between the lines, I think that price is the way it is because the DS Adapt has this new hosel.
Yep.
And I know a lot of players love to use the new hosel, and it's been great in fittings. But if you're a player that's not super particular about what hosel setting you're playing, you just want a really good driver with some good performance, good technology, that Cobra Dark Speed series is a really good one right now at an awesome price point for you at Second Swing. So
took a lot for that to leave Kevin Kraft's bag.
Right.
So if you watched last week's episode, you heard him. He moved to DS Adapt for that, but it wasn't an easy decision and that's why he kept the driver because he just had so much success with it. So.
Yeah, we know Kevin. He goes through clubs pretty quickly. So for him to be
professional club tinkerer.
Yes, exactly. That's how Kevin is. But yeah, that's the episode. Second Swing Thoughts. It was that was a thrilling week on the PGA Tour, and then of course we had 2 great interviews here. Tons more coming in the future. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you need to subscribe to: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it might be. Make sure you're the first to know when we've got new content dropping.
Yeah. Well, Drew, thanks for another great show, and thanks for tuning in. See you back here next week.